Welcome back. Thank you for coming back to hang out with us here at the Island of Lost Dads. Today we're going back, as I said in my last video, this is the second part 2 of our look at Men versus Roe versus Wade. This is the aftermath, of course, of the dramatic repeal that happened in the States just last week. We're going to talk about some of the reaction here on YouTube. It's going to be big. Let's get into it. All right, so it's coming to us right off the top is a pinned comment here from Sir Yeetus. Sir Yeetus is a YouTube channel here that does a number of things. Probably the biggest videos that they've covered have a tendency to sort of be in and around, as you can sort of see from these, like men don't want to be husbands. This woman thinks she deserves to be worshipped. It's sort of your sort of typical sort of like kind of new manosphere-ish kind of channel. But they put this out about 20 hours ago, and I thought we should talk about it. So right off the top, it's a picture which made the rounds on Reddit, actually, which is the reason why this image caught my eye. And it's Sir Yeetus says, "Good morning, gentlemen. It's time for your daily dose of red pills." And for those of you who can't see this, it is a woman standing in front of the Supreme Court. She is visibly pregnant. She has written on her stomach, "Not yet a human." You can probably see how this one is going to go. His pinned comment, Sir Yeetus' pinned comment, says, "This is evil." I don't know. Right off the top, what do I think of this particular protest strategy? I don't like it. It's not that I shouldn't say that. It's not that I don't like it or that I do like it. I question the point that she's making. Also because she's very visibly pregnant, and so how far along is she? Is she 9 months pregnant? You know what I mean? It starts to get, at some point, it starts to be well, in which trimester is she in? It's well, what exactly does any of that mean? And it's not yet human. Well, at what point does it become a human? It gets really, a human is not the word I would want to use. Because we would consider a baby still a human, but it's not a legal person. I just think that it's a little bit muddled in terms of what she's getting at. I would probably have written something else. I just think "not yet human" just wasn't great. But let's read some comments. Spoiler, they're going to be mostly insane. Here we go. She claims that the unborn baby is not a human yet, but a person would get charged with 2 murders if he was to kill her. That's true in some places in the States. One of the reasons why fetal personhood laws exist was to begin setting up a legal framework to claim that a fetus is a person, thereby making sort of setting the groundwork for eventually doing what the court just did, which is repealing Roe versus Wade. So they're right, but it's also irrelevant. Someone else will say, J.D. Hensley says, "You kill the baby, you go to prison for murder. She kills the baby, she gets praised for being a strong woman." Some then make up the argument, well, the difference is whether or not she wanted the baby. And that, my dear brothers, is the example of women having the privilege to say when it's murder and when it's not, simply based off their feelings and being protected by law as well, written as one word. You kill the baby, you go to prison for murder. Again, that's sort of state specific, but that's fine. She kills the baby, she gets praised for being a strong woman. Well, first of all, if the baby is born and she drowns it in a bathtub, no one is praising her for being a strong woman. What you're talking about is if during the course of the pregnancy, she either chooses to, or in fact all choices, but if she needs to end the pregnancy for whatever reason, it is a very difficult thing to do. I don't know if she would be praised for that, but certainly encouraged and certainly not vilified for that. But it is not as though women who carry babies to term are treated like failures by other women. There is no praise, there is no incentive where you get social validation or social approval for ending a pregnancy. It's just that people understand that these are difficult decisions that people make and they don't take them lightly. And if someone felt they absolutely had to do that, whether for personal or medical reasons, that person has made a difficult choice, which means, sort of by definition therein, that she's a strong person. She had to take a strong decision to do something that perhaps she did not wish to do for one reason or another. And then some people would make up the argument, well, that's the difference whether or not she wanted the baby, but that really isn't the case. In the case where a total stranger attacks you and murders your unborn baby, whether or not that's murder or assault or, it depends where you live, but certainly you've committed a crime. I don't know. I don't really understand where this person is going here. So women have the privilege to say when it's murder or not simply based on their feelings. Well, when that is like saying, if I decide to grab my dick, I can say I'm just having a quiet Friday night in. But if a strange man grabs my dick, that's assault. And that, my dear brothers, is an example of men having the privilege to say when it's assault and when it's not, simply based off of their feelings. And they're protected by law as well. Absolute insanity. Absolute insanity. Absolute insanity. Oh boy. Once again, a lot of comments here saying, funny how if a pregnant woman gets murdered, the press makes a big deal about her being pregnant. Seems to matter. Again, there is a difference between what you choose to do to yourself and what other people do to you. It makes a big difference. Imagine this kid seeing this picture one day and going, my own mother thought I was so worthless, I wasn't even human. I suspect by the time the kid is old enough to understand this, that's probably not going to be how they view it. This is a good one. I like how the man has zero control or decision if the baby dies or lives. Even if sperm is 50% the baby is also completely the man's financial responsibility. I said in an earlier video that is very dangerous when men take on a victim complex. When a dominant group takes on a victim complex, nothing good happens. Paying for whatever mistakes women make. Just think how mad people would be if the man were allowed to say, I don't want this baby, and then kill it. It would leave the partner that wanted the baby depressed. Except when a woman aborts a baby, it's her decision. She's strong for making that man sad. Jesus Christ, that he can't have a kid. Oh my God, this is absolute nonsense. This is and by the way, I'm reading these because it's really relevant to understand the kinds of attitudes that are encouraged in these spaces where sort of men are sort of expected to congregate. So first, and again, one thing you'll notice, and I do kind of have to repeat this because it's really important. Be very cautious about men who operate in a dominant position in society, who take on a victim complex when dealing with these situations. So let's read here what this person said. I like how the man has zero control or decision over if the baby dies or lives. Well, possession is 9/10 of the law. In this case, it's 10/10 of the law. The baby's inside the woman. How would it, again, if you consider just sort of basic bodily autonomy, how would it work that someone else can decide what happens to your body? This is the actual argument. And this next bit here, the baby's also completely the man's financial responsibility, paying for whatever mistakes women make. What does that even? First of all, it's not completely the man's financial responsibility. The man has a financial responsibility, but the baby's not completely the man's financial responsibility. And just think how mad would be if the man were allowed to say, "I don't want this baby," and kill it. Again, the baby, either outside the womb or inside the womb, is at no point the man's body. Again, if you have a problem with basic biology, you have to take it up with whatever creator you believe in. I wonder how the child will feel when they see how little their mother actually loved them. That's silly. Not yet a human, but I bet she still has plans to be paid for its existence. Again. Black Crim says, I guess she's lucky enough to never have experienced the termination of her son or daughter and knowing the date, time, place, what's happening, and then being totally helpless to save them. It's good she doesn't know what that feels like. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. I have no idea what this is about. What does that even mean? Again, more people going on about, oh, well, it's a law, that it'll be double homicide. And again, they feel like these women are riding the CC. That's just sort of like they're just having sex with a lot of people without consequence. One person says, if women are given the right to abandon motherhood through abortion, then men should be given the right to abandon fatherhood through child support. As I've said, men who do not want to have children do not have to have children. There are a lot of ways to make sure that does not happen. They are not as fun as risking everything, but they also don't come with this sort of outsized risk. And the reason why women should have the right to quote unquote abandon motherhood is that there's many instances where this is absolutely necessary, and I think now is probably a good time to talk about some of those instances. So this is from Elizabeth LGR on Twitter. And she writes, the treatment for an ectopic pregnancy, we talked about this at an earlier video, an ectopic pregnancy is when the pregnancy develops outside of the correct position in the womb. Thus, obviously a baby can't just grow anywhere in the body. The treatment for an ectopic pregnancy is abortion. That's it. They go in, they have to remove the developing embryo. That it can't survive. The embryo can't survive. The baby's not going to come to develop, but if left untreated, it will kill the mother. So you have to abort. The treatment for a septic uterus is abortion. The treatment for a miscarriage that your body won't release is abortion. If you can't get those abortions, you die. And it's really just this simple. And I put this here, and we're going to go back and continue to read insane comments on YouTube, because what the right has managed to do is to convince so many men that this is about promiscuous women. This is about promiscuous women who are not doing the right thing, and they're just having fun without consequence, and this will bring consequences to them. And so, but the reality is, what this means is, for women who have an ectopic pregnancy that normally would simply be treated with a medical abortion, they are now in a position where they might die. Because as the doctors begin to become worried about what the legal repercussions will be. Treatment for a septic uterus is an abortion. Treatment for a miscarriage that your body won't release is abortion. And if you can't get those abortions, you are looking at a situation where you very well might die. It's a little bit different from abandoning motherhood. Once again here, we're not going to do too many more. There's a few more. If someone punches her in the stomach, the person will be in prison for murder. I'm not implying the woman dies. And again, these are people who are responding to fetal personhood laws which were put into place for this exact reason. To begin to create a legal framework to support removing a woman's right to have an abortion. And again, high time women are held accountable for their actions. My body, my choice is a cop-out for their promiscuity. This is like, it's an unfortunate name. John Wick's a great movie. But this is it. This is it. This is what we're talking about. This is, and I'm going to hop over to, because Pink Book Lesson posted something as well, so we'll take a quick look at that. But this is ultimately what this is about. High time women are held accountable for their actions. My body, my choice is a form of a cop-out for their promiscuity. This underpins the manosphere, the right-wing, certainly the right-wing male position, and probably also the right-wing female position on why we should support the repeal of Roe versus Wade. To say nothing about the fact that all of these kids will have fathers who will now be in a situation where they now have children they likely did not wish to have or should not have for one reason or another. But we don't care about that because, and again, I've said this before, you have to be very careful when you're listening to people who hate women more than they love men. And I've said, certainly on a few of these channels now that, like, we are not at war with women. Anyone who tells you we're at war with women, you should be very, very suspect. We have to get along on this planet. So this is part of our this is part of our issues. So let's hop over to Pink Book Lessons. Pink Book Lessons, I've talked about her a few times on this channel. She's done now a phone line show, which I didn't see, but these are the comments that she got after it. Roe versus Wade was a long subject in one of my law classes. It was fun talking about doing research and mock trials. Now it's fascinating to see it in motion again in my time. I don't know what that means. Also, because I've seen some comment sections about this topic, people think that dismantling Roe vs. Wade is making abortions illegal or something like that. Roe vs. Wade being dismantled doesn't mean that abortions are illegal in the United States. It just means that the right to an abortion is on a state-by-state basis. Oh, well, that's very nuanced. Oh, that's very nuanced. Oh, that's so lovely. So, it's on a state-by-state basis, but roughly about 36 million women have just lost access to it because they live in those states. Like those states with trigger laws. And since there is no protection in the form of precedent, the next concern is if Republicans take over in the subsequent elections, they could put through a law which does a national ban. Again, Roe versus Wade is gone. What is to stop them from outlawing it? So I'm not sure. This is one of those things where it's like, oh, excuse me, sir. I've got I just got to point you out a specific distinction here, and it's irrelevant. But thank you. Accountability is truly their kryptonite when being told to take personal responsibility causes a level earthquake. Oh my gosh. Again, the fixation is always on women. The fixation is never on, well, there's two people in this situation. And as we pointed out, there are a lot of reasons to get an abortion that don't involve, going to a nightclub. Chris says here, let's start at the beginning and what choices were made. You choose to get pregnant intentionally, or choose to take the risk and got pregnant on accident. I'm not totally against abortion. I believe a serious medical issue and rape are legitimate reasons for an abortion. Thomas the Tank Engine can get behind that. Sort of an unintentional pun there with the name. And again, this conversation is only fixated on women. You chose to get pregnant intentionally or chose to take the risk. Once again, men are completely excised from this conversation. We are treated as dogs in heat, or just in the level of a beast, that it is up to women to control access to reproduction, and a man has no choice. Men will have no ability to control ourselves. We have no ability to say, hey, I roll Trojans. That is that's my deal. No exceptions. And stand by that. We don't do that. As men, we don't do that. Instead, we say, well, she chose to get pregnant. And what about him? Well, what do you want? She said it was okay. What could he do? I don't have much to say about abortion, says Pierce, other than it's always sad even when it's necessary, and people shouldn't look to it as contraceptive. Yeah, well, thank you. That is not the primary use of abortions, by the way. Kyronetta says, I've always felt abortion should be a state choice and not federal. Women keep saying they don't want the government governing their body, but yet they gave the choice to the state. It's much more so that it's not protected behind federal law, but for anything else they wouldn't care. For example, if they set a law on men's right, they wouldn't bat an eye. 43 upvotes. We are absolutely doomed. Absolutely doomed. James McCracken said, they weren't banned. It's left up to the states. It's most likely how it's supposed to be because of the Constitution. Whatever that means. Not Urbiz says, the fact that these hit dogs are hollering so hard brings me so much joy. So maybe now they will stop handing out the Whisker Biscuit as if it's a free sample day. There's a lot of dog puns in this. I don't understand what the point of that is. But fundamentally, this is exactly what I said, that underpinning so much of this anger, so much of this vitriol, is the fact that the anger is against women who are perceived promiscuous. It is not women who may have an ectopic pregnancy. It is not women who may have a septic uterus. Women who may have a miscarriage that their body will not release, who need this treatment as an absolute necessity. And in one case I've read that 1 in 50 pregnancies is an ectopic pregnancy. And what about them? But we don't think about that. What we think about is there are women having a lot of sex, and this is gonna teach them a lesson. CB says, any power that can be removed from the federal government is a good thing in my book. It's really tough. It's really tough because it's like any power that can be removed from the federal government is a good thing in my book. And it's this type of a very particular short-sighted thinking where if you or someone you know finds themselves in a situation where they have an ectopic pregnancy, where you or your wife, perhaps maybe you have a miscarriage and you do require the service, and you find out that in your moment of need, in your moment of exhaustion, you're at the hospital, what is going on, what are the details, and they explain it to you, and it's like, yeah, but we can't help you here. You got to get on a plane, you got to drive for however long, you got to get out of here and try to get someplace that can help you. And in that moment, and I've said this before, in that moment, people will look back and it'll be very similar to what we saw in COVID, and they will say, "Hey, oh, I had no idea this would affect me, because I'm a good Christian woman. I've done all the right things. What do you mean this is gonna affect? What do you mean my wife might die? What do you mean my daughter might die in childbirth? How can this happen?" And people will say, well, this is exactly what we were fighting for. Bryant Rice says, "I'm okay with it. The government and world has told men that if you didn't want the baby, you should have worn a condom. Now these quote-unquote women don't want to be held accountable for the men they let raw dog them. Nah, sis, take that L like men have been taking for the last 50 years. 23 upvotes. This is it. Always been against abortion, and I'm happy to overturn. I understand that plenty will still go to great lengths to get them done in less safe circumstances, which makes me sad." Isn't this person merciful? I think all human life should be protected, and that abortion should never have been a human right. And the overwhelming majority of people need to be more responsible if they don't want children in a certain time. People still have the choice to prevent, and that's how it always should have been. So many is careless and using abortion as a last resort. What do I fear is the talk about the Supreme Court possibly targeting contraceptives in the future. The treatment for an ectopic pregnancy is abortion. The treatment for septic uterus is abortion. The treatment for a miscarriage that your body won't release is abortion. If you can't get those abortions, you die. This one is cute. Black women should really consider practicing celibacy and focus more on healing mentally and physically fit, building a secure future for themselves. Because honestly, things have changed drastically, and these black men are sick and tired of our S, and they don't hold back one bit. Brie Lindsay, who used her own picture, that's bravery, says, "My thoughts are this. This is God sending signs to some of the irresponsible people that were getting abortions for fun, thinking they can escape maturity, responsibility, and accountability." It's all confusing to me because abortions can actually be avoided. It sucks for those teens that know nothing about sex because no one taught them and they end up pregnant at a young age. People, hug your loved ones and protect your teenage daughters. Teach them how to avoid even having to think about the abortion option. I assume that Brie lives in a world where assaults don't happen, where these things are not a real reality, where people are not in difficult circumstances, where maybe you can't afford another kid, or you're in an abusive situation, or something has gone wrong with your sort of regular preventative measures. I just don't understand. I find it so hard to wrap my mind around what it would be like to just be a person who's like, I can't understand nuance. Abortion should never have been made a convenience option. All abortions are felonies. This is the last one we'll read, and then we'll go to the last story I've got here. So men are supposed to be sympathetic. The government has impeded on women's rights now. Women are uniformly silent when men are screaming about the injustices of family court, but now need men's help because it benefits them. It also benefits us. But again, the sort of reactionary male space has become so unbelievably toxic. You have guys cheering decisions that they very likely over the course of their lives and the lives of the people they know will come to hate. But let's talk about it. Mississippi Free Press, 12-year-old incest victim should birth dad's kid, according to House Speaker Gunn. Mississippi House Speaker Philip Gunn says abortion should be illegal even for a 12-year-old rape victim carrying her father or uncle's child. He made the remark to reporters. Very brave. In the hours after the U.S. Supreme Court struck down Roe v. Wade in Dobbs v. Jackson, women's health organization, allowing state abortion bans to take effect. What about the case of a 12-year-old girl who was molested by her father or uncle? AP reporter Emily Wagster Pettis asked the Republican senator on the Mississippi House floor on Friday. Gunn said he didn't know what the legislature's appetite would be for ensuring child rape and incest victims could obtain abortions. Let's read that again. Gunn said he did not know what the legislature's appetite would be for ensuring child rape and incest victims could obtain abortions. The state's 15-week abortion ban does not include rape victims, but a 2007 trigger law that could come into effect would allow rape exception in early pregnancy only if the rape was reported to law enforcement, which does not happen in most incest cases. He explains, the law doesn't include an exception for incest. I don't know that will be changed. Do you think the legislature should revisit that? Asked the AP reporter. Personally, no, I do not. I believe life begins at conception. Every life is valuable, and those are my personal beliefs. Despite the fact, of course, that child pregnancies carry significantly higher health risks than adult pregnancies. And this is it. This is it. They have managed to convince a legion of men that a law and laws which would enable a father to force his own daughter to bear his child, this is a win somehow. This is a win for humanity. This is a win for society. Because we have been encouraged to hate women to this degree. This is a real problem. And this is partly the reason why I do this, partly the reason why I do this show. It is a real problem. It is a real problem for us that we have become so bitter that the idea that, yes, 12-year-old incest victims will have to bear their father's child of rape, but if it means those women at the club who I think are having sex with everyone except me, which is the reason why I'm mad about it, so long as there's a chance this law could hurt them somehow, I'm for it. And that, my friends, is insanity. So, that's all I got for you today. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It makes such a huge difference in the channel, especially this early on as we're kind of getting underway. And I'll see you next time. Peace.